Okay, let's talk Man City versus Chelsea. Probably the game of the weekend. Very exciting, entertaining match. If you're a fan of soccer, then you probably really enjoyed watching this. Of course, it was 1-1. There were not a lot of goals, but you have to appreciate the way both teams played, especially Chelsea. And, I've watched a lot of Manchester City over the last few years. Pep Guardiola, I think, is maybe the best manager of our time for sure. And so I try to watch a lot, study, learn, his tactics. And conversely, I look at how can you beat them? That's what I like to think about a lot when I watch Manchester City is how do you beat them? And I've come to three conclusions. If you're going to beat Manchester City, you got to do three things, okay? And if you can't do all three of these, you probably are not going to win. And teams like Brentford, I do think Brentford is Manchester City's kryptonite. They come in, they have a really good record against City. City struggle against them. They've done these teams in the past that have beaten City. They have three things in common. And if you're going to beat City, here's the three things. Number one, you have to exploit their weakness. And what is their weakness? It's counterattacks on the wings. And we'll talk about that. Second, you have to take your chances. You're not going to get a whole lot of chances. So you have to take the opportunities when they come and you have to put the ball in the back of the net. Third, the whole team plays great and you have one or two standout performers. So this is a high bar if you're going to beat Manchester City. And rightfully so. They've become the best team in the world. So what did Chelsea do? I would say Chelsea did 2.5 of these. They didn't walk away with the win, but they played really well against Manchester City. So let's look at that. Chelsea go with a 4-2-3-1 against Manchester City's 4-3-3. Now, number one, exploiting City's weakness. When City have the ball, they morph into a 3-5-2. And what happens is typically one of their center backs is going to push into the midfield as a second pivot alongside Rodri. And then they're going to have the rest of their center backs kind of flare out and play in the three. Well, what happened against Chelsea was that Manchester City had Akanji, who was the other center back, push up into the midfield, and Nathan Ake, who was playing kind of as the left back, left center half, was just pushing up really high. And so there was a lot of space in behind on Chelsea's right side, Manchester City's left side. And what Chelsea did was they would drop into kind of a 4-4-2 in defense. They would press a little bit high when they could and push up into almost like a 4-2-4 and press City. And then if City broke the lines, they would drop deep. And what happened with with that was they were able to exploit Manchester City's weakness by getting counterattacks on their right side. They had a lot of joy on that right side, and that's how they scored their goal. And with the first goal that Chelsea scored, it was a nice little combo. And what happened was Nathan Ake was all the way up in the left winger position. He was all the way up at the Chelsea's 18-yard box. Chelsea kind of win the ball, and you don't see much of a threat. Nicholas Jackson comes in to get it, and what happened was Ruben Diaz, the other center back who's kind of covering for Ake, was caught really high having to challenge the ball. And it was a nice piece of skill by Nicholas Jackson to do a little bit of a flick and was able to get a 1-2 and get the ball back. And they played the ball down the line for him, and he had tons of space to open up and run into. And of course, Raheem Sterling runs. They play the ball across. He cuts it back against Kyle Walker, finishes it. But they had probably 2 or 3 opportunities down that right flank in the first half and about 2 or 3 down that right flank in the second half. Pretty much all of Chelsea's counterattacks came on that right side. So they scored the goal. Second, you got to take your chances. So they got the goal. Raheem Sterling scores the goal, but Nicholas Jackson had a really good chance that he missed. Then they had another chance, almost identical to their first goal in the second half, where they played the ball into Nkuku, who had subbed on, and the ball slowed down a little bit. It gave City a chance to come back, and the attack kind of fizzled into not a great shot. So they had the opportunity, but they had maybe 2 or 3 other opportunities to get another goal, and they just couldn't do it. And of course, City got a game tying goal. They're gonna try to wear you down. They're gonna get a goal at some point. So that would be where Chelsea only achieved a half point there, because they took their first chance, but they did not take the rest of their chances. And if you're only up 1-0 against Manchester City, very challenging to maintain that lead. And then thirdly, the whole team plays great, and you need 1 or 2 standout performers. And Chelsea did this. Chelsea played phenomenal defensively. It was a great defensive display. It was not a park the bus situation. They pressed higher up the pitch, like I said, pushing into that 4-2-4. If City broke the lines, they dropped back into a 4-4-2, and they defended with purpose. They challenged every ball. Manchester City did not have a lot of clear looks. Erling Haaland missed a lot of chances, but they were not amazing chances. They were, creative. They got him the ball. A lot of them were aerial chances, which I would say, if you're going to give Erling Haaland a weakness, he's relatively weaker in the air. He's not very good at getting a header on target, and I think he's better at launching himself with his feet for aerial opportunities than with his head. So I do think that is a weakness. But he didn't really have any clear-cut chances. He had some chances that you would normally think he'd put away. Goalkeeper made some saves, and the defense was really holding them. And so I was really impressed with the defensive display that Chelsea put on. And the 2 standout performers were Gusto at right back and Disasi at right center back. So that right side was just locked in. Gusto had a very tough challenge to play against Jeremy Doku, who is super fast, quick, loves to beat players. He had no joy on that outside against Gusto. So I thought he played a phenomenal match. And then Disasi matched Erling Haaland with the physicality, with the speed, with the intensity, and really kept him at bay. And I was very impressed with that. I had spoke a few weeks ago about Manchester United looking at Braithwaite from Everton as a potential center back. And I thought, hey, not a bad idea. And then, of course, the following week, he gets manhandled by Erling Haaland. But then Disasi showed up and showed how you have to play against him. You got to stay physical. You got to be all over him. And it seemed like on corner kicks, Erling Haaland wanted nothing to do with Disasi. He was trying to get other players on him. So I think those 2 players really had a great performance. So they put in a great shift. Chelsea are going to be disappointed with dropping those 2 points and the game ending in a 1-1 draw. But it was a really good game, really enjoyable to watch. Chelsea put on a great performance and kept the title race really interesting. So this was a great game. I thought, man, if you're a fan of soccer, you're going to enjoy this game. You can rewatch it, watch the highlights. You can watch Chelsea with a really good game plan coming in and taking advantage of the opportunities, exposing City's weakness, taking some of the chances, not all of them. And of course, the whole team did really play well with their standout performers. That is a blueprint on how you can beat Manchester City, and Chelsea did it.